see. Okay, so I have the recording starting now, and thanks everyone again for joining me. Really happy I'm going to get a chance to show you guys around this. You know, we did release a lot of new tools, and it's good that I get a chance to just show you a little bit more about how they work, how they're going to be beneficial to you, and give you a little bit more info. And you know, I'm always psyched to see that people are interested in seeing, in learning a little bit more and seeing what we're doing here at Knowify. So thanks again. Go ahead and get started now. So I'm going to start with actually one really small but pretty significant change that we made to how we work with payment terms right now. In the past, we've had our own internal Knowify payment terms that, you know, we kind of just were hoping would match up with your QuickBooks terms, and it worked out, you know, 99 times out of 100. But a lot of people were putting in requests for custom terms and different things that, you know, we weren't exactly setting up because it wasn't the most commonly used type of format. So we changed the system a little bit for users who are on QuickBooks, where now we'll pull your payment terms in directly from your QuickBooks account. So just to give you a little bit more info and give you a better idea of how this works, I can now set, you know, in QuickBooks net 20. I'll go ahead and save this here in my QuickBooks account. And then back in Knowify, when I sync up, I'll actually be able to see in my transactions feed from QuickBooks, a new term was created in QuickBooks and it was net 20. And so that way you can have as many different custom payment terms as you want. You know, whatever you need to do, we'll work with it. And as part of that change, we actually gave you the ability in your admin section to set a default payment term. So let's say, you know, I do vary which terms I use, but 9 times out of 10, it's net 15. This way, it'll automatically throw that on my invoice document for me, and I don't have to worry about changing it unless it's a specific situation, you know, when it's going to be needed. I'm also going to reiterate something that we had changed in our last release, but we've actually, you know, increased its importance with this release, and that's that sales tax is now pulling directly from your QuickBooks account, which it's always actually done, but it's going to be visible in this section just so you can see which rates are available here. And we actually are going to be using this throughout the system a little bit more, in that now you can use this on your proposals as well, as opposed to in the past you could only use it on invoices. And I'll get into a little bit more depth on that when I'm creating the contract. But you know, anytime you need to add new sales tax, you just throw it in QuickBooks. If you're not connected to QuickBooks, you can add it here and keep a database of all the different tax rates you need to use. But that's just, I wanted to cover that one as well. Just for the sake of this webinar, I'm going to go through the creation of a project just to show you kind of the tools as we added them. But before I get too deep into that, I also want to highlight something that we changed in the catalog for our service templates. For those of you who aren't familiar, service templates are our unit-based budgeting system where you can actually write in a number of custom units and have Knowify automatically put in a budget for you. And so we made a slight change in this system to make it a little bit more friendly for people who don't want to get quite as detailed in this and are really just trying to get lump sum budgets into their project plan. And so just to show you what I'm talking about here, now if I have something like, you know, here is my painting template, you know, I can always put in my description and work order, you know, painting. And we've always had unit name, nothing new here. But you can see that now when I'm actually putting in my labor and material budget per square foot, I no longer have to put in labor by hour and materials by item. I can actually write in lump sums where I can say we budget $1 per square foot in labor and let's call it, you know, 50 cents in materials. In the past, it used to say, you know, how many hours of how many different types of worker do you budget? We did this just to make it a little bit smoother of a transition for people coming from maybe Excel sheets or just a simpler program that's not going to break it down to a list of items. We also now give you the ability to include a subcontractor budget per square foot. So maybe, you know, I have my own internal guys working at, you know, 50 cents per square foot, but I know that I'm going to need a sub on site for $1, and that can be part of my budget here. I'm going to show you how that's going to be used later on when we're building this project plan. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in here now. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new contract job, you know, pretty standard stuff here. I'll call this our release 219 webinar. And so you're going to see a couple changes around plan and track that we have set up here. One of the most significant ones being that you can actually use your services from your catalog to name your phases now. So if I have, kind of the traditional cost codes in my account, I could say like this is building permit. As of right now, it's really just for the sake of unification, making sure you have a lot of the same names, everything's going to be consistent throughout the system. But this is actually the first layer of framework, so we're going to be able to generate much more detailed cost reports through the system. Just as an example, since every phase has a budget and then an actual cost, you'll be able to put in a time frame and say something like, how much did I budget versus how much did I spend on building permit, or, I usually like, let's see what I have here. So I have a rough in, call it framing. So like how much did I budget versus how much did I spend on framing across this month? We'll actually give you that info. And so I, again, can just write in a lump sum of materials budget, and then we always have the ability to reference the catalog here. But you'll see that this copy items from spreadsheet is being used more and more throughout our system. And again, this is something that we want to improve on, as we keep improving Knowify, we'll keep this tool in as often as we can. I just want to show you what we've done here. Since so many different people using Knowify have a takeoff software that they're familiar with, and that's what they like to use, we actually let them use a spreadsheet of columns to say, here's actually what my takeoff software told me that I need to use. I can say copy items from spreadsheet and just paste them in. And now I have my materials budget automatically loaded into the system. I didn't have to use Knowify to individually write in each item. Obviously, I still have that ability. But now you can have the materials list in here. You can do all of your purchases through that, and it kind of speeds up the whole process for you a little bit. I'm also going to show you kind of how that painting template is going to work now. So, in the past, we've had the ability to put in templates that automatically, include a list of materials. Now I could say, I have to paint 5,000 square feet, and it just simplifies it and says, here's my materials budget, labor budget, subcontractor budget. And so it speeds up the process, and I can still track my actual cost versus my budgeted cost, but I don't need to have it broken down into too much detail if I don't want to. So I'll go ahead and save these changes here. And now I'm going to get into the contract side of things. Made a couple of changes around our bidding process, and I'll kind of cover those here too. I'll start by just plugging in the standard terms of the contract, nothing too exciting around this. You'll see that now this drop-down includes the tax rates from the QuickBooks imported tax rates in my admin section, or if you're not with QuickBooks, obviously just the ones that you input into the system. But it's a way to get a little bit more consistency between your proposals and your invoices. We'll also make note of which items you mark as taxable. So I'll say, just this one is taxable, and we're going to use the absurdly high New York sales tax. And you'll see that it actually automatically carries over to the invoice. It's something that we weren't doing in the past, but we always wanted to have this as an option. And so it just automates the process a little bit more for you, so you don't have to re-enter the same information twice. Another new thing we have here is this additional options page, or not page, but kind of section for creating a contract. This is something that will give you a little bit more customization around how you're exporting or how you're creating your documents in our system. Output style we actually already had, we've just relocated it. This is just to give you the ability to either hide subtotals or display subtotals on a contract. If you hide them, then it'll just show the names of the line items and the total price of the contract, versus if you display them in kind of the classic progress invoicing style, it'll let you show the client how much you're charging for each individual item as well. But what we've added here now, and this is kind of relevant to showing your client, individual value of each line, is the ability to change between schedule values and regular style invoicing. I'm going to show you schedule values. It's something that I've always been a big fan of when I demo Knowify in the past. But it used to be a setting that you have to set overall for your account. Now we actually have the ability to switch it up between regular or schedule on each contract. I'll give you a quick preview of the difference here. But basically, you can either have the invoice that shows a description of the phase and the amount that you're invoicing at this period of time, or what we have is our schedule values, kind of inspired by our classic AIA form that we output. But instead of just saying the name and how much we're billing, it's the name, the total value agreed upon in the contract, the amount that we've billed in past invoices, the amount we're billing in this invoice, the total amount we've completed out of the scheduled value to date, percentage of completion, and balance to finish. This is just a really big, useful tool for anyone who does progress invoicing to get a little bit more information across to your client. And you know, a lot of people who aren't doing this with their current format seem to see it and think, you know, my client would actually love that. And so they've kind of picked it up and started using it moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and make this active now and show you a couple other changes that we've made in our plan and track section. One of them being that we've had these buttons, and you're going to see kind of a common theme with this update. We used to have two separate buttons for ordering materials and allocating from inventory. Now we've kind of set it up as one collapsible item. This is, again, kind of laying down the basic framework so we can have more features in the future without cluttering your screen with buttons. We just wanted to organize it, make it a little bit cleaner, better looking, and more user-friendly for anyone in Knowify. You'll also see that aside from schedule resources, you can actually go directly to enter time from your plan and track section. For people who are just using Knowify to kind of plug in all their info, you know, maybe I don't want to have the whole scheduling process. Maybe I don't have my people entering the time. I just want to come in and enter their hours each day. This way I can just come in and say, you know, use everyone's hours from the day on this job. And it gets the job costing in there a little bit quicker. I'm going to go back to that job and show you another change that we've made, which was on request and kind of a big one for a lot of our teams or a lot of our companies that are scheduling based off of crews. Now when I do schedule resources, and you'll see that, you know, we actually pull you into this scheduling board automatically and show you what's not scheduled. We can actually schedule, first of all, based off of role, which was already available. We can actually break it down into different departments or teams or crews or however you break this down. And that's actually set up in your admin section. You know, we've had this structure area where people have always kind of asked what this is for. So if I say I have, you know, teams and say, you know, here's team A, add team, and team B, I can set it up in my users by saying like, okay, Paul is team A, and, you know, we'll go both Pauls on team A. And then I can, you know, I'll just show you how this is going to work in my scheduling now. But I should have the ability, and it might not let me because they're 1099ers, to say like, all right, I want to grab team A. I'm going to schedule them in for Wednesday. And so it kind of just speeds up the whole scheduling process so I can move several people without having to say this guy and this guy and this guy. And I can just grab everyone all at once. I'm going to go back and show you a little bit more of you know, what we're doing with our buttons changing around Knowify. So I'm going to submit an invoice on this job. And actually, sorry, I should mention this as well. You'll see that when I'm invoicing an item from the contract, you see how it automatically marked this as taxable and pulled in the tax rate? Again, this is just us trying to keep you from having to re-enter information. You know, Knowify already knows what you said you're going to have to charge in tax and what the rate was, which items. And so you have pulled both of these in here, but only the one I marked as taxable in the contract automated here. So it really is just making the process a little bit more seamless for you as the end user. And then again, just a little bit more information about how we're changing up the review of Knowify. And this actually will take a little bit of time to take place. So I'm going to actually log into a new account just to show you what it's going to look like. A couple of our changes, we actually are kind of implementing one step at a time. So newer accounts, you'll see, have this drop down for any invoices I submit. Whereas the old account I was looking at earlier still had a list of icons. As nice as they were to make it a one-click process, they weren't the most user-friendly and understandable things that we had in Knowify. So now, you know, you have your default button, send via email, but I can also come in here and record payment. I can edit, you know, grab my PDF, close, delete this invoice, and we'll do it in your bills too. And you'll see that this is going to be recurring throughout Knowify after our update. it's really just to make the process a little bit smoother and more user-friendly for whoever is jumped in on Knowify. And then just one last thing that I want to cover here. And actually, I'll go back to my other account for that because that one should have locations in it. But by common request, we actually had a lot of advisors and companies asking if we could work with locations. And now when you set your job default, aside from class, you can actually set locations, and we'll pull them in from your QuickBooks account. So if I, maybe let's see how fast I can set one of these up. But now whenever you have locations that you want to track, a lot of people have 2 different offices that they want to be able to separate when they are, invoicing. They want to know, which office is generating more revenue. I can actually set this to a location. This is 2 Wall Street. Actually, if I have locations in here, well, the short version being that you should be able to set the locations to each job, so we can know, how to sync this up when you send the invoice to your QuickBooks account. That's mostly what I wanted to cover with this release webinar, just to kind of get you guys a little bit more familiar with just some small changes around the system, maybe things that weren't so clear right off the bat. Again, I will be posting this to YouTube, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.